Welcome, everybody. Hope you're all okay out there and surviving another day of this lockdown. We've got we're here again with the SGH Sports events. We've got some great guests again. We have all week, and we have every day so far we've been on. So first things first, just like to thank our streaming user, which is Simply Video, there in the background, making sure everything's okay for us. They've been brilliant all the way through for us this week, and long may it continue. We obviously have Lynn now back. You know, Casey Communications out there in Hull seem to be working for us, which is a good thing.
Yes.
First things, yes, we've got him back. The sponsor today is Well Green Solutions Limited. Thank you to the guys there for sponsoring the event. Again, if you want to sponsor the event, you can go to the SGH page and get in touch with the boys itself, and they'll sort all that out for you. We've got to mention as well, we've got the Sergio Garcia flag, which is the Masters flag, which is framed already, ready to go, signed by Sergio as well when he won the Masters. What we've also got there is it's £10 for the entry. All the proceeds do go to the NHS. So, again, go onto the SGH Sports page, have a look on there and donate as much as you can. It will be anywhere in the world can donate as well. So, if you can, that'd be great. We made some good money for the flag we had last week. So, you know, let's hope this flag itself again will raise some good money for the NHS. On to our guests. We have Simon Hurd. Hurdy, how's things? You okay?
Been on my bike this morning. Only way forward is an electric bike. 15 miles in an hour. Boom! Up hills, down hills. I was like, what's it called? That's what would he call
that cyclist?
Tour de France. What would he call?
Bradley Wiggins.
Yeah, that's him. I'm Bradley Wiggins now. But yeah, great fun. Only way forward, I'm telling you.
Well, you know, Lynn, we've got the next guest. Lynn, come in. I know you want to come in on early on this one, so you can come in now.
I was just going to say, he don't need... Good thing with his electric bike is he don't need to inject anything or anything, does he? Fine.
I'm ripped.
It is for me, it's cheating, but that's a different matter, you know. Electric is cheating. You know, if you can't get up the hills, my friend, you know. But we'll get you on a proper bike soon.
Places. I go out to Harrogate. There's a big hill in Harrogate. There's a big hill on the way out to Poole. I won't go there normally, but some lovely houses. Lovely houses.
There is some lovely houses. I've been out my bike lately as well, and exactly the same. There's some lovely places out there. And our main guest today, talking of fitness side of things, we've got the legend that is Derek Redmond. Derek, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Yeah, really good to be here, guys.
Good. We're really pleased to have you, mate. You know, first things, how are you? How are you coping with lockdown? I hear you're helping out as well on this difficult time for everybody.
Yeah, we're not too bad. We've got 6 of us in the house. So myself and my wife, 2 of my kids, 2 of the 4 of the kids here, 2 of my daughters are here, plus their other halves are here. So there's 6 of us here, and we've done the best that we can. We've set up a little gym outside. I've got a boxing bag, we've got bike, weights, all that sort of stuff. I've even got a golf net out there. We've got a dart.
We like that.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, we're coping. And as you say, I'm doing a little bit. I volunteer for FedEx and do a bit of deliveries just in the morning, 7 till about 12, 1-ish, and just trying to do my little bit, you know, as a famous supermarket would say, every little helps.
No, absolutely, mate. You know, doing a fantastic job as always. We're going to talk about your career. We're going to talk about, you know, well, first things first. I think we always do this because it seems to be every person we have on so far, they've always got some memorabilia in the background, boys. You know, we don't have it, but everybody who's in always has some memorabilia. Let's talk about a little bit about the memorabilia behind you. You know, you've got your England vest and things there. You know, what is your prized possession in that office of yours?
Okay, so this one here is it's a Great Britain vest. That's when I won the World Champs in 1991 in the 4x400. I don't know if you can see it. There's a picture of when we finished. There's myself, Roger Black, John Regis and Chris Akabusi. I don't know what else you can see. This was just a picture when I went to an event. There's a few rugby players and a few athletes on there, and that was given to us at a dinner. This one is... so I'm a semi-pro boxer now, so that was my first... But I did one of these white collar things, and I won that pretty convincingly. Yeah, so there's a few bits, you know, sparkled around. But the funny thing is, there's only 2 rooms in the house. My wife doesn't mind me having stuff, memorabilia hanging up, and that's the office and the downstairs bog. Other than that, there's nothing hanging up. house. They're the only 2 rooms in the house that's got memorabilia. So I don't know what she's trying to tell me, but yeah, that's it.
I think everybody's the same on that one. Let's start. Let's start right at the beginning. School. We told you this beforehand. My brother is actually a teacher at that school now, which is Rhoda School, I believe, and down in Northampton way. My brother's a teacher there, and he sent me a few bits yesterday, just which is in the record. You weren't the best behaved at school, were you, by all accounts?
I was a misunderstood child, I think would be the right phrase. Yeah, I was just a little bit misunderstood, but basically that's it. Yeah, definitely.
And in their books, they've got that you had the slipper and the cane, misunderstood, and the slipper and cane came out back in those days.
Well, that was a big sign of misunderstanding back then. Yeah, no, I was. School was hard work for me. I used to not to get all serious and stuff, but got a lot of racial abuse at school, which didn't help things. At the time, I didn't know, but I am dyslexic, and that would have had an effect. And even though, back then you were called stupid, silly, lazy, all sorts of stuff. And to be honest, I guess it was a combination of the lot. I was a cheeky so-and-so as well. And all that added up to me being a bit of a, I wouldn't say troublemaker, but a bit of a, used to get myself into a little bit of situations with teachers and goodness knows what.
Well, I understand that I'm dyslexic myself, so I understand the dyslexic side of it. I didn't get told until I left school, but looking at
Couz, can I ask a quick question about dyslexic? Yeah. Right, Derek. This is one I've always said. A couple of my kids have got a bit of that as well, and it's easy to go to it when they can't spell, but does make sense when B's and D's get muddled up in their head and stuff like that. I totally get it, because I want a great speller. I'm still not. That's my business partner. But the most bizarre thing about dyslexia is, why the hell did they call it dyslexia? How do you spell dyslexia? Ridiculous. It should be called shouldn't it? You know what I mean? How do you spell dyslexia if you can't spell? I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing. I mean, it's got to be. Everyone understands.
I'll be honest with you. It's possibly the only word in the English dictionary that looks all right to me. I'm
the same.
But I make a bit of a joke of it now, and my favourite gag is that I only because it was my wife that actually spotted it in me. She's half Spanish, and we were trying to learn Spanish, and she was picking it, and I was it was really, really bugging me, and I was so frustrated with it. And she sort of brought it up, and I went and had some tests and this and that, and there was this mild dyslexia there, and I gave up on the Spanish. But the joke that I always used is that I got invited to a toga party and I went dressed as a goat. And that kind of thing settles me down with people. It's one of the, and it's amazing the amount of people that are dyslexic that had no idea why they were at school. It is what it is. So I deal with it now.
You'll know what that is then, won't you? It's bang out of order.
So, absolutely, Derek. Let's go back to you're at school and stuff. The dyslexia, the trouble at school. Is that what got you into athletics in the first place?
No, it's not what got me into athletics. I was always very sporty. I did a bit of everything at school. Football. We were a big rugby school, so rugby was actually my number one sport in the early days at school. Did a bit of football, cricket in the summer, athletics. So I did all of those things, but I was always quick. And by the time I'd gone to secondary school, I was already a member of an athletics club. I actually joined my first athletics club when I was 7, which was in Milton Keynes. And again, I ran in a primary school race, or infant school as they were called back then. Ran in a couple of races. At the end of the evening, the sports day, they got a local kid to come down from the athletics tracks to sort of present the medals, and he spoke about Milton Keynes Athletics Club. And I asked to join, and my mum and dad just took me along. So I'd already been running just because I loved it. But it kind of got serious, obviously, at secondary school. But alongside that, I was pretty good at basketball as well. And they were the two that I really sort of excelled at, was basketball athletics. And it was only when, by the time I was 14, 15, I got selected to compete for Northamptonshire in the English schools, and I came second in the English schools. Then I got my junior international, and then the athletics kind of took over. And like everything else, the more I focus on that, I had to drop the other sports. So yeah, I mean, I would say by the time I was about 15, then I started to take athletics really seriously.
Well, we're going to come back to your basketball, because that was another career which you came into after, the running side of things. Going into your first setup, or your first, let's say, senior call up into the England, how did that work? Because a lot of people out there just think you go in and you get picked and you go through and you do that. There's obviously a lot of work, and people have to see you to get to the point of being picked to go and run for England. How did that come about to you from junior up into adults?
The good thing about athletics, and Lynn can tell you about this with golf, it's unlike some sports, you are picked because you are the best. You win, you've qualified. There's no grey area. And it's one of the things that I love about, obviously, athletics. So I went through the ranks from junior international, going to the European juniors, not doing particularly well. I think I finished fourth in the Euro juniors. Then I became a senior and almost took a step back, because I'm now running against people, the top guys in the country. And then a couple of seasons, you'll work your way through there. So finishing quite high up in the national championships. I think in 1985 was pretty much my breakthrough, where I finished second in the national championships. It was actually won by an Australian, even though it's the national championships. But back then, they used to invite internationals to compete in it. So because I was the best of the Brits, you then get picked for whatever competitions are coming up. And I got sort of, some small small England internationals, England versus USA, competed well in those. And then I guess for me, my big breakthrough was on the 27th of July, 1987, at 11:45 p.m. I don't remember it very well. I ran in my first, back then they were called Golden League. You possibly know them now as Diamond League athletic meeting. And it was Oslo, the Bislett Games, as it's called. And I was running in a 400. And it's actually quite a funny story. So what happened was, it was only a 6-lane track back then. And you get picked. So I had an agent, and they want the people to come and run. And my agent, a guy called Andy Norman, not with us anymore, God rest his soul, managed to get me a lane in this race. The other British athlete in there was Akabusi. There was an Australian, Darren Clark. There was Darryl Robinson from America, and I can't remember the other two. And it was the first time I was being paid to run. 900 quid I got for this race. I couldn't believe I was going to get paid £900 to run in this 400. Anyway, I'd gone out a couple of days early. The morning of the race, I started to contract a bit of a cold. Didn't feel particularly well. And I was told by the doctor, just rest, take some paracetamol, this, that, and you'll be all right this evening. Anyway, as the evening progressed, I wasn't feeling great. And the whole meeting was put on quite late, because the last event was the Dream Mile, where Steve Cram was taking on, a big American in the Dream Mile. So the whole meeting didn't start till about 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, hence my race being quite late. And I'm warming up for my race. I've got a pounding headache. I really, really didn't want to run. And I remember seeing Akabusi as we were warming up, and I pulled him to one side and I said, Chris, I don't feel like running, mate. I can't run. He said, Derek, you've got to run. He says, you cannot let Andy down. He will absolutely slaughter you. And Andy was, called a spade a spade. He pulled no punches. And I said, Chris, I don't feel it. He said, look, I'll tell you what to do. He said, have you signed your contract? I said, of course I have. He goes, have you read it? I said, of course I haven't. Who reads their contract? So he said, look, I'll tell you what to do. Run the race. Then after you get halfway round, fake an injury and pull out. But make sure it's over half distance, because in the contract it says as long as you complete 50% of your distance, they have to pay you. So I thought, that'd do. So that made me feel better. I didn't bother warming up properly, just did my bit. Anyway, came to the race, went down, on your marks, get set, go, and I ran the first bend. I'm going down the back straight, and I remember thinking, right, don't stop at 200, stop at about 230, 240, so no one can question the fact that you've run half the distance. So I got up to 200, and you can sense in a 400 where people are and around you. And I thought I was, in the reckoning. So I thought, you know what? I'll go to 250 and then I'll pull out at 250. So I run the first half of the second bend. I get to 250. The stagger normally unwinds and the athletes start to come past you who are in front and all that. I don't see any. And I thought, do you know what? I'll go to 300 and then I'll pull out. So I get to 300. I'm now coming into the home straight and I'm in front. And stupidly, I thought, I'll tell you what, get to 350 and then pull out. And then I got to 350 and I'm in the lead. And I just thought, sorry, you might as well just carry on and run. So I ended up winning the race. And not only did I win it, I broke the British record, which had stood for 10 years. Couldn't believe it, considering I felt like crap. And the real funny thing was Andy, my agent, was in the infield, and I've crossed the line, and the clock stopped at 44.82. And I thought the clocks were broken because there's no way it was going to stop at that time. And he goes, "You've just broke a British record. Go and do the victory lap. Go and do the victory lap." And I actually turned to him and said, "What's one of them?" And he said, "Just one of the people," which I did. Came back round, and then ITV wanted to interview me, and it was Jim Rosenthal because they were covering the athletics there. And during the race, I felt fine. Halfway around that victory lap, all the symptoms of this flu came back. The nausea, the feeling sick, the pounding headache, everything. So I just wanted to go and disappear and crawl up in the corner and die somewhere. So Jim didn't, but one of the BBC guys said, "Oh, can we do an interview? Can we do an interview?" I said, "Look, I really feel bad." He goes, "Look, we're on a break. We'll do it. We're back from the break in 30 seconds. I promise you we'll only be 30 seconds. You'll be here in a minute." So I said, "Okay." So I went and sat on one of the flights cases at the speaker, the cameras come in. And then I'm drinking some water, and they're going, "Right, we're back in 10, we're back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And old Jim Rosenthal stands there and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bislett Games in Oslo, where just before the break, you saw Derek Redmond break the British record. Wasn't expecting that. Derek, was you expecting that?" And he puts the microphone in my face. And I went, "Well," and threw up all over it. And I just turned and said, "I bet you weren't expecting that."
Brilliant.
So that was my baptism of fire into the real international stuff. And I literally went from being ranked 3 or 4 in Britain to being ranked 5th in the world, literally in 44 seconds. And that was the real turning point of my career. And then I got picked for the European clubs. And in 86, I went to the Commonwealth Games, went to the European Championships, won gold at there. Then 87, went to my first World Championships, won a silver. 88 was my first Olympics, where unfortunately I got injured. And my career just went on from there.
What did Akabusi say to you then, since you told him that you were going to pull out at 220?
Well, the funny thing was, I don't think we spoke about that a bit after, but he came up to me after. And he said, Derek, I cannot believe that time. Isn't that? Oh, my God, you've just done something. And he said to me, in fact, we had a conversation because a few of the old guys, we meet once a week for a Zoom call. And Chris was talking about it. And that conversation came up. And there was an other athlete there. She was a 400-meter hurdler called Gladys Taylor. And she went up to Chris about half an hour after my race and said, "Chris, I've got something to tell you." And he said, "What's that?" He said, "You know that young kid Redmond?" And Chris went, "Yeah." He goes, "He's just retired you." Because Roger Black was also on the scene as well. And Chris knew he would never get the better of himself from Roger. And that was the reason Chris moved to 400-meter hurdles. It was either that or quit the sport, literally.
Wow.
So, yeah, but he was really happy for me. And, so, it was good times.
Absolutely. And then going on, well, you got the British record, as you say there. You kept it for a bit, and then you lost it to Roger Black, didn't you? Then you got it back in 87.
Yeah.
You know, were you really, was that your aim for 87? Was, right, I need to get this back? Or was that just in the background of, this is going to happen when it's going to happen?
Yeah, that was just a byproduct of what I was trying to do. So Roger won the European Championships in 86. I finished 4th. I was disappointed with that because I was just outdipped by an East German who was drugged up to the eyeballs. But, hey, I won't say anything about that. Not bitter at all. But the good thing was Roger beat 2 East Germans, both of them were dodgy. And, you know, it goes to prove that a clean athlete can get the better of dirty athletes. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, Roger broke the British record then. And then a year later, when Roger and I really thought we were going to have a ding-dong season, he actually picked up a bit of an injury, and I had a pretty good season. And I actually broke the British record in the semi-final, just qualifying for the final at the World Champ. So I did just enough to win it, and I jogged over the line and broke the British record. So I was in pretty good shape. I screwed up the final by going off way too quick and died of death and finished 5th in the final. But, hey, we all live and learn. But I didn't go out to get the British record. It was just a byproduct of me trying to qualify for the final of the World in '87.
And going into the Europeans, you won gold at the relay. You won gold again in later on in 92. 92 you did your hamstring. In
91.
87 you did that as we got silver in there. You got 86. You got the gold in the relay. Going into a relay competition with 4 of your competitors, how does that work? Because it's an individual sport, but suddenly becoming not an individual sport, but it is in a way, if that makes sense. You've got the baton to pass on. How does that work? It's
the interesting thing about being a sprinter. So if you're a 100 or 200 or a 400 meter runner, and you make the relay team, you get 2 bites at the cherry, which is quite a nice thing. First and foremost, we're individual athletes. That's what we're aiming for. So my aim was to win gold in the individual, and the 4x4 is a bonus gold, if you like, or a bonus medal. If you've had a bad individual, then you get that second bite at in the relay. For us, we all take care of business as our individuals, and you've got myself, Roger, and whoever in the 400 at the major championships competing against each other. But once that's done, 2 or 3 days later, we get together and we are now a team. And the beauty about having the likes of, say, Roger and Chris in your team is these are the guys, the tough guys to beat in the individual, and all of a sudden they're on your team. And I'd rather have them on my team than bloody be running against them. So we used to spend a reasonable amount of time together away from athletics during the winter. We used to have our 4x4 get-togethers where we would train for a weekend together, spend time with each other to get to know each other. And the main reason for that was to get to know and understand each other, because you're chucked in at the deep end at a major championship as a relay team, 3 or 4 days before the event ends, and you've not actually spent any time as a team. And how are you supposed to compete completely as a team when you don't know each other? And there's a lot more to it than just your ability. So we knew each other really well. We used to hang out with each other quite a lot at the games leading up to it. So for me, it was a very simple transition from individual to relay because I had great teammates. And I know that kind of sounds corny, but they are a good bunch of guys. I mean, you get Akabusi, you get Regis, you get Brian Whittle. There was Todd Bennett was around at the time. I'm trying to think who I've missed. Roger, obviously. You got some great personalities there. We all have egos, but none of us used to. We used to say you check your ego in at the door when you come into the 4x4 room. And everybody did work well with each other. And I think that's why 30 years later, you get Zoom calls with me, Regis, Akabusi, Roger, Roy Dickens, Brian Whittle, Mark Richardson, all these 400-meter runners of yesteryear, because we got on so well as competitors and we still get on well now. So we were a good force to reckon with when we were, competing. And I think that's one of the reasons why the relay teams did so well.
Derek, did you when you went into them relays, did you feel massive pressure difference because now you're running for a team? Like all these golfers going into Ryder Cup, you hear the pressure there. Was it exactly the same going into a relay? You felt the pressure because you just didn't want to let those guys down?
Absolutely. Do you know what? All bar one race, I always felt that pressure. And it was you're absolutely right, because in an individual, if I messed it up, it was only me that I messed it up for. But in a relay, you didn't want to mess it up for the other guys. But then there was also a small side of you is where you didn't have to do it on your own, because you've got these great athletes on your team as well. And to cut a very long story short, in 1991, when we won the gold against the odds against the Americans, the order was supposed to be me to Chris to John to Roger, because the standard rule of thumb is you put your fastest man last and your second fastest man first. Roger had won a silver medal in the individual, so he was now the fastest. I was the second fastest and the other two in the middle. So that's pretty much how you pick. But after that team was picked, that evening we got together on the back of a conversation that Chris and Roger were having, because they felt for some reason that wasn't the right order. They came to me and John, explained it, and we came up with a new order of Roger to me to John to Chris. And Chris felt he was the man to run the last leg, and I won't go into all the reasons why. And he actually said something that completely changed that whole pressure thing. He said, guys, if you can get me that relay baton, either 10 metres in front of the American or 10 metres behind the American. So that's a 20-metre kind of leeway you've got there. I'll bring us a gold medal. And instantly, for me, that lifted the pressure off because I felt the three of us could easily get Chris in that position. So that wasn't hard work. But Chris thought that was the hard bit. And we thought the hard bit was getting, once Chris was in that bit, him then winning the race. And he said, if you get me in there, that's the easy bit. So we kind of took the pressure off of each other. And it was a really weird feeling for that race because it wasn't pressure. It was almost trying to contain what was inevitably going to happen. We were going to win. And again, we laugh about it now. I can remember being in the warm-up area and we're all milling around trying to get our heads in together. You've got all 8 teams and you're sort of wandering around. You can hear the outside on the track. You can hear all the crowd and you're just in that tunnel just ready to go out. And every now and then I'd look up and I don't know, my eyes would meet Roger's eyes. And we wouldn't say anything because he'd be the other side of the tunnel. But we would just kind of look at each other and just go, you know, like we know something that everybody else. And there was an air of, we know something they don't know. It was almost like we knew it was going to happen. And the race just unfolded and went to plan. And it was absolutely brilliant. So it was the only race, actually, where I didn't have the same nerves as I normally have in a relay. And it was yeah, very strange feeling.
And on that one, you know, Chris Akabusi was your last leg, as you say there. He kind of, I watched it this morning and he was always with him. And when you were watching that, did you think, like you kind of just touched on, did you always think, oh, we've won this, it's not a problem? Because the Americans hadn't really been beaten, had they, at that point? And they were pretty much the favourites behind yourselves, I believe. And it was like, you're coming in and you get him into that position quite comfortably. In the last 100, he goes past him and then it's a bit of a fight. Did you always think at that point, he's always going to win this, it's not a problem?
Yeah, I mean, once Chris had got the baton and he was a couple of metres behind Antonio Pettigrew, who was the world 400-metre champion, by the way, I felt it's in the bag. But Chris's strongest part of the race is the second half of the race. So the only part where I thought Pettigrew could have given Chris some trouble was in the first half of the race. But Chris stayed with him. And I think Pettigrew didn't give Chris the credit and the respect that he deserved because he didn't run as fast in the first 200 as he could have. And once he got to about 150, I know how strong Chris is. You know, there's basically 2 types of 400-metre runners, a speed-based 400-metre run and a strength-based. Chris is a strength-based, so he'll go off slower, but he'll wind it up and he'll finish really strong. I'm the opposite. I'm a speed-based. I basically go out like a bat from hell and hang on for dear life and just hope that the gap is big enough. That's the when Chris was with him with 150, 120, 100, we just knew it. And he came down that home straight, and I always refer to it as mirror signalled manoeuvre. He kind of looked over his shoulder, falls out a little bit, goes past him. To be fair to Pettigrew, he tries to come back, but Chris has got too much strength, and he went over the line. And Chris will always tell you he won us the gold, but if you look at the splits, Chris ran the slowest time.
I was going to say that.
We made him look good.
Do you look at your times afterwards and go, I was the quickest, that's good, you know what I mean? Or I was the slowest I've got, you know what I mean?
Yes and no. I mean, I will say I was the quickest, just putting it out there.
Yeah, man.
To be honest, that's very unfair because Roger ran 44.6 on the first leg, but you got to remember, he was starting from a standing start. He was going from 0. Yeah. And they reckon there's about 4-5 tenths of a second. I ran 44.2. So actually, Roger and I ran on par because I had what's called a rolling start. So by the time I took the baton, I was already moving.
Correct.
Regis ran 44.3, but he didn't need to run any quicker because he just wanted to sit behind Danny Everett. And going down the back straight, he said his natural thought was to pull out and go past him, but then he remembered the game plan. So it was more of a tactical performance than it was, a balls out, let's just leg it and see what happens. Yeah. So in that race, times didn't make a difference. And although I was given the fastest leg, people could have possibly run quicker if they had needed to.
But if you're running for a world record, you'd just go flat out, wouldn't you, all of you?
No, if you want to win it as well, you've got to be a bit tactical as well.
But if you were going for a world record, you'd have to go as hard as you can, wouldn't you?
If you're going out and out for a world record, then yeah, you're going to run flat out. But that puts you in a very a very dodgy position, because it's easier, and careful what I'm going to say here, it's easier to come from behind, leave it, than it is to try and lead the race from the front. It's a bit like being a pacemaker or a hare. So, yes, I mean, the Americans adopted that for many years. They would lead from gun to tape, but they used to have the strength and depth and the quality to be able to do that, where they could open up a 10, 15-metre lead on the first leg, then that extended on the second, extended on the third, and then they give it to someone like Michael Johnson, who would just, absolutely power his way around. And yes, that is a way of breaking the world record. But there's two things at a championship. There's breaking records, but more importantly, there's winning gold. And at a major championships, it's about positions, and it's about winning gold. And it might take a world record to win a gold, or it might just take a tactical performance to win that gold. But the most important thing at major championships is the position, first, second, and third. So all we were concentrating on was to finish first. If it takes a world record to do that and you're good enough, you'll do it. If it doesn't, the gold is more important at that point.
And going into...
Sorry. Quick one. Sorry, mate. These lads who are running now, the speed they're running at, when you were running, you had your Butch Reynolds and your Michael Johnsons. And I mean, did you ever think that 43.18 would ever get beaten? Because I never thought it. I mean, it's just... They smashed it, the young Wade Van
Niekerk.
Yeah.
Wade Van Niekerk, 43.0.
I mean, how's he pulled that time out of the bag? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Wade, if you ever see a picture of him, he looks more like a middle distance runner, very slight, very slim, and actually, as far you mentioned Michael Johnson, I'm also going to mention Usain Bolt, but as an all-round sprinter, Wade Van Niekerk is the best all-round sprinter this world has ever seen.
Really?
Over 100 and 200, it's by far Bolt. Over 200 and 400, it's Michael Johnson. But at 1, 2, and 4, it's Wade Van Niekerk. He's the only man ever to run under 10 seconds for the 100, under 20 seconds for the 200, and he's run, holds the world record for 400. And I have a feeling he also holds the world record for 300 metres as well. So This kid's got unbelievable talent. And when I saw him run that in the Olympics in where are we in Brazil, couldn't believe that time. And he is or was capable of running under 43 seconds. He had a bit of a bad injury playing rugby of all things, which I can't believe he was allowed to do, and started to make a bit of a comeback this year. But yeah, I didn't think 43.1 would get me. I was in the race with when Butch Reynolds had it at 43.29. That was Zurich a few years, and that was unbelievable. But then when Michael Johnson came on the scene, he was just another animal. I mean, God.
He's your Tiger Woods, isn't he? He's your Tiger Woods.
I just got sick of seeing the back of his head. He really was. Yeah.
Did Michael Johnson come in and change the world of athletics with his approach or his running or his technique? What was it which... Do you see that as a change in part, or do you think it was earlier than that happened?
I wouldn't say he changed the sport. He certainly was pioneering in the fact that the amount of times he would run sub 44 seconds and he would run low 44, people started to look at running those sort of times. Up until 7-8 years ago, he was a phenomenon in the sense that he was so far ahead of anybody that, you speak to someone like Roger in 1996, and going into Olympic Games, there was 2 races in the 400. There was Michael Johnson and the rest of the world. Yeah. And if you speak to Roger, who won a silver at the Olympic Games, he said that silver is his gold because he beat everybody else in the world. Michael Johnson was just on another planet doing his own thing. So he kind of started to make people look at 43 points, as beginning to be a little bit of the norm, and people started running it. It's a bit like Roger Bannister. Everyone said no one will ever break the 4-minute mile. Then once he did, a whole plethora of people started running because they could see it was doable. And Michael kind of had that effect. I mean, his style was just, unorthodox. I mean, it was the weirdest style, very upright, But my God, it was
effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going into the World Championships, you had a European Championship side of it. You had a good record in them. But the Olympics was something which you struggled with injury mainly. The first Olympics you were in particular, you pulled out quite early, I believe. Tell us a little bit about actually pulling out of that event itself, because you were quite close to the starting time as well.
Very close to starting time. So I'd had Achilles tendon problems all that year, and that was the beginning of some bad times with Achilles. And I think I'd had maybe 3 or 4 operations leading up to those. I've had 11 operations on my Achilles tendon, so I kind of lose count. And I managed to get myself into the team and into pretty good shape, even though I was really fighting problems. I nearly pulled out of the games maybe 2 weeks before, but decided to push on and see how I got on. Time-wise, I was expected to make the final and possibly medal. And on the warm-up track, so an hour and a half before the race, I actually snapped my Achilles. Yeah. And I just absolutely gutted partway through the warm-up, pulling the bloody Achilles tendon. And I remember saying to the doctors, just inject it with painkillers and I'll go out and run. And obviously they couldn't do that and wouldn't do that. I didn't even make it into the stadium to watch, to run even in the first round of the 400. So that was pretty hard, considering it was my first ever Olympics.
And 92, we've got to talk about it. The pictures itself, I can remember the pictures. I'm sure everybody out there can remember the pictures. Talk us a little bit about, obviously, the process going into there, and also when your dad came on and the emotions which went through you at that point. Yeah,
well, again, I'd had a few problems with my Achilles leading up to them, managed to keep them at bay, had a great physio in Mike Garmston that really looked after me leading up to there. Ended up running myself before the games into good form. Now one of the favourites for a medal. Won the first round, walked around in the heat, walked around the second round, semi-final, going to run a decent race, so I get myself a decent lane in the final. Great start. I had the quickest start out of everybody, running down the back straight, bam, hamstring goes. And the reason I got up after 15, 20 seconds, because I honestly thought that if I got up and started running again, I'd still qualify, because by the time I got up, the guy still had about 120 metres to go. Obviously, I then hobble 50 metres, I'm halfway round, they've all finished. And the reason I wanted to finish the race is because I didn't want to be beaten by the Olympic Games again. I remember back 4 years prior to that and not making the start. And I honestly felt that I could live with finishing 8th and being knocked out in the semi-final than not finishing. And that was the sole reason that I wanted to finish the race. So I continued hobbling round, and there's been a few officials and medical staff trying to get me off the track because there was a second semi-final to come, and I wasn't having it. And then out of the corner of my left eye, coming from over my left shoulder, I could sense this person was going to try and stop me. And I was just getting ready to fend them off. And I heard my dad say, "Derek, it's me." And he sounds like Barry White. So you cut his voice. And he said, "Derek, it's me. You don't need to do this." And I just turn and goes, "I need to just get me back in lane 5. I'm going to finish this." And I'm effing and jeffing and swearing at my old man, which I have to say is the first only time I've ever been able to down swear at my dad and get away with it. And he's like, "Okay, we'll get back to lane 5 and we'll finish this together." And then, obviously I said, "I can't believe it," and completely lost it. But it was for purely my own personal selfish reasons that I needed to finish.
Sure.
And my dad's main aim was to stop me further damaging my hamstring, because we had the relay to come, and he didn't know how severe the injury was, and there was a possibility of me making the relay, but it was pretty bad, and I made it worse by doing what I did. So there was, that put paid to my Olympic Games.
And then going into 94, you got told that you, we touched on it a little bit earlier on, 94, you got told by your physio that you're never going to run again, and things. In fact, you're never going to play for England or Britain, in running forms. You went and played basketball professionally, like people do. How did that come about?
So basically, between 92 and 94, I'd had 7 operations trying to get back. I never competed. And the guy who did those 7 operations, I had to go and see him, and he said, look, your career's over, your hamstring's done, you're never going to compete for your country again. Go and get yourself a real job. That was his words. And cut a long story short, I had no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I got into playing local league basketball. Then I went from local league to professional. And then I got a call up to play in a single international at basketball, which I did. And I remember sending the surgeon a letter of me playing basketball for England. It's a bit of a... and then I decided to try something different because I'd competed for my country in 2 sports, and at the time there'd been a few had done that. Nobody had done it in 3, so my other love was rugby. So I took up rugby, played professionally for Coventry, and then I got into playing rugby sevens, played professionally for a team in the Far East, and I tried out for a couple of England rugby sevens teams, but didn't quite make it. So I was hoping to be able to send him another picture. That one didn't happen. So pretty cool. I've been professional in 3 and competed for England in 2. But if you ask my agent, and Lynn, you're like this, if you ask my agent, he says I've actually competed for England in 3 sports because I played at the Celtic Manor last year in the Celebrity Cup for England. And I got my first ever hole-in-one with the ring. So he actually said, and I've got the England bag and all the kit. So he says, actually, you've played 3 sports for England now. So I'll take it.
Good man.
Good man. Talk us about your hole-in-one, more to the point. Talk us about that hole-in-one.
Hole-in-one was brilliant. It was, I can't remember the name of the course, because they do a funny thing at the Celebrity Cup. You only play 9 holes. So it's 2 rounds a day. So Saturday we played...
Roman Roads, was it Celtic Manor? Roman Roads.
I think it was a Roman Road. But I'm trying to work out what number it is because on our course, because you play a few, cross over, and you come back to the clubhouse, and it's the par 3 over water. I think it's ours. It's the 6th or 7th. I think it's the 7th. So I'm not sure what that is on the Roman Road. Anyway, it was on the second day. We were playing Scotland, basically, for the wooden spoon. There's me and Peter Jones, and we're playing against Jenny Faulkner, and I can't think of the Scottish rugby player. Who cares when Jenny Faulkner's on their team? And, I've taken an 8-iron, and all I want to do is I birdied it the day before, and all I want to do is get it over the water and not make a complete tit of myself. And I've hit this 8-iron. And I've hit it quite well. And all I remember thinking, that's safe, it's on the green. That's all I wanted. I haven't made a fool of myself. And Peter Jones's caddy said, because our caddies were local members of the course, and Peter Jones' caddy said, that's going in. And I turned around and said, what? And I looked, and I missed it. Around the green, and everyone went, yeah, it's in. And everyone on the tee is going, it's in, it's in. And I remember thinking, there's Peter Jones coming towards me, there's my caddy, there's his caddy, and I remember thinking, who do I hug first? Coming towards me, blonde hair, short skirt, Jenny Faulkner.
Lenny,
that was brilliant. And then I completely screwed up the next hole. I duffed it off the tee, duffed my second shot. I said, Peter, I'm picking up. I'm still on a high from that hole-in-one. But yeah, great experience. That was good.
Lenny, what about yourself? What was your first hole-in-one in professional golf?
The Can Open, actually. That was a long time ago. I think late 90s that was. I think I've had 5 on tour and won jack shit. My best one being, I think I've told it before, but the 16th at the French Open, on the Wednesday, practicing on my own, and Radar, who does the commentary now, comes bowling up to the tees going, right, Linny, 10 quid, nearest the pin, I've still got it in my locker, you go first. Bosh, straight in. And behind the tee is an M6 convertible, and 1 day too early.
Oh, you're joking.
I got one on the wrong hole. I had
another one once at the Irish Open at Ballybunion, and it was sponsored by Murphy's in those days. And if any pro got a hole-in-one on this hole, everybody got 3 pint of Murphy's. So I went into the town that night, mentioned it before on here, it was a carnival atmosphere and everything. and everyone's just coming up to me going, thanks for my pint, mate, you know, and all this. I was like a massive celebrity in the town that night.
For me, I play in the British Par 3 every year, and I've never got close. But that one wasn't expecting it, and just hit it well, and it just more luck than judgment, but hit it well, and it went in. So I'm pleased I've got one. If it's the only one I ever get in my life, well, then at least I've had one.
I play off 2. I've never had one. I'm still trying. Hurdy, we've got some questions as well. So if you want to do your quiz, Hurdy's got this quiz, Derek, which he does. It's 5 questions.
We've got 6 today.
There's a leaderboard and everything about this. You know, this is competitive stuff. This.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to pass you on to Hurdy.
Goffy's got 5 out of 5. So.
Was he? All right.
I'm going to give you a chance today because I think I've got 6 for you. But in 2012, as we all know, the London Olympics, there was 200-metre final. 1, 2, and 3 was Jamaicans. Name the 3 sprinters.
Oh God, Bolt.
Yep.
Oh, what's the Commonwealth champion?
I'll give you a clue.
Oh, you're talking. Yeah, okay. The second one is. Oh, what's his name? Yeah, he used to call himself. He had long nails and God. Blake, Johan Blake.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have a go at the third, but I was always going to give you a point if you got 2 out of 3. You remember the third?
Yeah, Johan
one?
Blake, and the third was a young kid, very skinny kid. What's his initial?
WW.
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka.
I can't think of that.
Warren Weir, but I'll give you a point for that.
Yeah, Warren. That's it. Yeah, Warren Weir. Yeah, I couldn't think of it.
2012 400-metre winner. 2012 400-metre winner.
Oh, was it? God, come on, Redmond. 400, 2012.
Were you in the stadium? Or were you?
I was there. I'm trying to think.
I'll give you a clue.
Go on.
Initials KJ.
Karani James.
Boom. Well done.
Oh,
right, I'm going to bring you back to your first love, Gladiators.
Yes.
Hey, I'll tell you now, it's the biggest trophy I've ever won. It is the biggest and heaviest trophy I've ever won.
Brilliant. I mean, I remember watching that what year was that? I can't. What year was it? When
About 93, I think. 93, yeah, something like that.
Jet.
Jet. All I can say, Jet was a worldie, wasn't she? She was a worldie. She was a worldie. Gladiator character Wolf. What's his real name?
Michael Van Wyck.
Michael Van Wyck is correct. You have a favourite cuz?
I'd have gone for Ulrika Johnson, to be fair.
You like a bit of Ulrika?
You know.
Right. Question 4. Kevin Keegan, after beating Leeds 1-0, had the biggest head-off with Sir Alex Ferguson in that amazing interview. Can you remember what year it was? Because they were up for winning the league that year, weren't they? So I thought you might remember it. You were playing then, cuz, as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Dear. What year was that? That was before he went to Newcastle, wasn't it? Because he had another spat when he was at Newcastle. Is that correct? Or was it after Newcastle? I don't know.
I think he was wanting Newcastle manager then.
He was Newcastle manager,
yeah.
End of the season.
Newcastle manager.
Yeah.
Right. So that would have been, let's have a look. It's a similar sort of time. It's about 94, 95 season.
I'm going to give you that. It was 96 season. That's pretty close.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all right.
Okay.
Right. I just want anyone to beat Goffey, really. He's my pal, but I'll do. Newcastle signed in 1996 a player for 15 million.
Asprilla. No. 15 million.
That's the easy one, isn't it? Surely.
It's an easy one. Come on, that's giving you an answer.
We're talking about him earlier on, before we came on air.
Oh, Shearer, no.
Correct.
Shearer.
15
That's
million in
right.
1996. And
Just
and the most expensive player in 2000 to 2010. Who were that for Newcastle?
You're going on like I know
to the end of his career then as well, but
Beardsley, no.
No. 2005. He's just giving him. You just taking 10 years off his life.
Taking it off his age.
Michael Owen.
Oh, Mike. Oh, God, yeah. Are you asking Newcastle questions? Do you think I'm a Newcastle fan?
No, are you?
Oh, no. Even though it says it on Wikipedia.
No, I'm just. I've got all sorts of different. I asked people different questions. I didn't even know. 1991, when you won in Japan.
Yeah.
Name the 4 Americans who came second.
Oh, Andrew Valman, Quincy Watts, Danny Everett, and Antonio Pettigrew.
Right, and then for a bonus point, because as I've said, I wanted to beat Goffey. Jamaican team, name 2 out of the 4 who came third.
Hold on. In Jamaica, what was that guy's name? Somebody Howard? No. No, do you know what? I'm not going to get the Jamaicans. Who was in that?
Patrick O'Connor.
Yeah, okay.
Devon Morris.
Devon Morris, that's who I was trying to think of. I won't get the other 2.
Winthorpe Graham and Seymour Fagan.
Okay.
Fagan.
Winthorpe Graham was a 400-metre hurdler. I should have got Devon Morris because he was the 400-metre one I was thinking about. I should have got those 2.
They were miles behind you, though. They were like they were miles behind first and second, if I remember right.
We were sub 3 minutes, and they were 3 minutes.
Yeah, they were over 3 minutes. I think you won by. I know you were tight with the Yanks, but I remember third coming in next day nearly.
AJ, he's coming in now. Derek, he's got some from the social media side, so either Twitter or Facebook. He's got a few questions for you. So, AJ, do you want to come in?
Yeah, morning, Derek. How you doing?
Morning, mate. I'm all right, buddy. You?
Yeah, very well, thanks, mate. Not too bad. I've just got 3 or 4 questions. Gary asks, if you could pick an ultimate 4x4 relay team, who would it be?
Wow.
Blimey. British athletes, are we talking?
We'll go for anybody you fancy. If you had a world 4x4 team that you had to pick, past or present, who would it be?
Wow. Well, I tell you what, if I could pick any athletes in the world to run in a relay with, one of them I've already run with Daley Thompson, greatest athlete I think that's ever walked this earth. He would be on my team. Just for his banter, it's got to be Akabusi. I mean, for the banter, I'm not going to have a quiet relay team with Chris on there. And if I had to pick another athlete, let me think. Great question, by the way. I think it's got to be Bolt if he would run a 400. Yeah, that would be a great team. That would be a fun team.
Not going to get beaten often, is it?
No.
Catherine Shipley asked, Derek, is there an athlete, past or present, you wished you could have raced against?
She should be working, by the way. That's my missus.
No, is it?
If she's watching, she should be working.
To be honest, I only asked that one because she looked quite attractive on the Facebook.
I mean, the obvious one, it'd been great to run against Usain, just to be in that whole atmosphere of being in a race with him and just, yeah, I mean, that would be quite cool. So, I mean, I ran against Michael. Correction, I ran on the same track as Michael Johnson. Running against him, I don't know what. But Bolt would have been quite cool to be a part of that whole situation. I don't want to call it a circus act because the guy was deadly serious, but you know, the whole pantomime that he put on, and you know, whenever he ran, the cameras flashing and everything. So Bolt at his best would have been a cool person to be in a race with.
Kind of guess for the golfers in Lynn and Hurd, that's the equivalent of playing with Tiger, right?
Tiger, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it's not just the ability of Tiger or the ability of Bolt, it's what he brings with it. I mean, I can imagine, Lynn, you'd be better. What it's like if you're in a four-ball with Tiger, the people walking with you and everything, it's just got to be electric.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to play with Tiger, and yeah, it's just absolute pandemonium. And I remember saying to him, I don't know how you deal with this all the time, and he said it was quiet that day, you know.
Did he get the bottom half of the draw there, Lynn?
That was on the Saturday. Nice little 2-ball. Took him down as well.
Linny, how did you
Classic.
How did you play, Linny, when you played again? Did it raise your game, or did you?
Yeah. Always raised my game if I was playing with a better player.
Yeah.
Even if I felt like I was playing absolute crap, you'd still find something somewhere.
Yeah.
Much easier to play, and it just keeps you aroused all the time. If there's so many people around you, you just aren't you? You
got no choice. Yeah.
I mean, going out in the Madeira Open on a Saturday morning when there's not even a dog watching you. I mean, where but it is, isn't it? I mean, Tiger gets to have crowd every single round. I mean, I'm sure he wants to get away from it, doesn't he? He does, but
never lose the ball. Never lose the ball.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Just a couple more, Derek. John Rawson says, is Derek's hamstring framed in those shorts on the wall behind you?
No, what's left of my hamstrings are still in my leg. I tell you what, I wouldn't get into them now. You wouldn't want to see me in that. Not good.
All right, and then final one. Claire says, who carried the GB flag in the Barcelona Olympics? And is the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games that you've been at just amazing to be part of, or is it a distraction?
That's a great question on two parts. Do you know what? I can't remember who carried it. It might have been Sir Steve Redgrave. It may have been. But the funny thing is, at my first Olympics, I didn't do the opening ceremony. It is something that everybody wants to experience and do, but it does become a hindrance because you are on your feet for hours. You have to meet hours in advance, and you're hanging around, and then by the time you come out country by country, and then you come out and you stand in there, you are on your feet for a long while, and you find a lot of the top athletes don't actually do it. They'd rather do the closing ceremony because it does take it out of you. I did Barcelona because I felt I wanted to do one. I wanted the whole experience. I remember having a muscle spin machine, a small portable one, clipped on my side, and the leads run down my trousers legs onto my Achilles, so I was getting treatment while I was walking around. But it's one of those things that everybody wants to do, but it is a little bit of a bit of an inconvenience when the last thing you want to be doing is out in the sun, standing on your feet for 5-6 hours.
Hey, Derek, I've just thought, this is absolute gospel truth. I was very nearly an Olympian. This is absolutely true. Don't know if you know this story, Hurd.
I know this. You were going to go play for Turkey.
So, I needed an invite for the Turkish Masters because I'd spent most of my year in America and hadn't earned. You needed to be top 70 in Europe. So I asked Chubby for an invite, and my profile was quite good at the time. And Chubby rings me up and he said, you can have an invite if you agree to represent Turkey in the Olympics. And I pied it off as in taking the pee. So I said, no chance. So he rings me up on the Monday of the event, of the week of the event, and says, right, Lenny, you don't have to do the Olympics, but you have to agree for a meeting with the president of the Turkish Golf Federation for an hour. And I went, this is serious. This is serious, isn't it? He went, yeah, it is serious. So I sat down with this fella, and I swear not, he offered me quite a chunk of money to start with. And then the numbers he was throwing out for a medal, all these sponsorships. And I'm like, how can I do this? I mean, I've had a kebab every now and then when I'm falling over. He went, there's that many countries do this. He said, I promise you. He said, you'll get Turkish residency. We'll have to change your name to Davud. So within the space of 10 minutes, he's now increasing the numbers he's throwing at me. And he's throwing some proper numbers at me.
Yeah, wow.
And I went, right, look. I said, I'm just going to have to stop you now. I said, you can throw 5 million at me, whatever. I cannot give you an answer now. So I went away.
Ring me down.
Word's already got round that I'm having this meeting. So the crack now that I'm getting on the range, everyone's calling me Davud because they all know. So in my head, I'm thinking, do you know what? Just to go and be in the Olympic Village and everything, I'm just thinking, I think I half want to do it. And then next minute, I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. There's a chance I could, if I'm on my game, I could be doing all right. Can you imagine if I'm on the tee, final round, playing with Rory McIlroy? Next minute, Lynn from Turkey. It just... Well, that is absolute gospel truth that I was given that offer.
Oh,
so
man.
Yeah.
Why didn't you? What stopped you from taking it then? What? And it's
so I'll tell you what I did. I went away and I thought, right, because the guy said to me, your world rankings is such that you'll get in no problem. You're coming to the end of your career. He said, I've been told you're the sort of character that could probably go and do this as well, no problem. So in the end, I thought, right, if they're daft enough to give me this, I'm daft enough to do it. So I didn't just say no. I gave him a silly number, like I say, and it never happened. So, yeah, but it is for a funny story.
Well, no, and he's right. It happened so much. I mean, it kind of started back in the day with Zola Budd. If you remember back in 84, 85, I think it was 83, 84 sort of time. She, got a British passport in like 5 days, and it's Qatar have done it with, it happens quite a lot. I thought it was a Jamaican athlete. She ended up running for Slovenia. So there's lots of athletes that have done it. I would have seriously, especially say if you're at the second part of your career, it was going to be, it would have been a great way to finish off a professional career, so to speak, wouldn't it?
But I had guys coming up to me talking about it, and I had lots of guys going, "Oh, you've got to do that, you've got to do that," and then other guys going, "There's no way you can't go and do that. You're just stupid." So it was very much, it was up in the air.
Yeah. I bet it was a tough decision to make.
Derek, who was it who trod on Zola Budd's toe? Can you remember?
Mary Decker.
Mary Decker, that's right.
Mary
Did she stand on her toe or did she trip her up? What do you think?
Well, apparently, you know what it's like in long distance running. They run very close to each other, and they caught each other on a couple of occasions, and because they were so close, they were both watching each other. In the end, Zola stumbled, caught her, and I think and Mary went over. In fact, she was Mary Slaney because she married a shot putter.
Mary Decker Slaney.
So I don't think it was on purpose, but the Americans hated it. They booed Zola for the rest of the race because their sweetheart, their American sweetheart, had been knocked out of out of the race, and her husband Richard Slaney, who was a shot putter, picks her up and she's crying in his arms, all that, and that was it was Mary Slaney.
She ran barefooted, didn't she? Could you ever imagine in your career running 4x400 barefooted? Where did that come from? How did she feel comfortable?
Especially when everyone else has got spikes on. It's not like they're in training shoes. They've actually got metal spikes, 9mm needle spike in their shoes. So, I couldn't think of sprinting in bare feet. Hey, listen, I struggled in spikes with all the problems that I had.
Derek, thanks for all the questions, and thanks very much for being on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Derek, we have two more questions
Derek.
for you, which we ask everybody. So we have two more questions. One is, who would get you into the most trouble on a night out?
As someone who well-known or just a friend of mine?
It can be anybody, really, to be fair.
I tell you who would get me into trouble, and I met him a few times, funny enough, at a golf event. Keith Deller, the darts player. He's a nightmare. He loves a beer. He's a lovely, lovely, lovely guy. But you know what? He would have you in all sorts of trouble. So he would be somebody I would would get me into trouble.
Fantastic. And your four-ball, golfing four-ball, what would be your ultimate four-ball, dead or alive?
Oh, God. It's got to be Mr. Woods, obviously. For me, Michael Jordan, because he is one of my idols. And if you're talking about anybody and anybody's in the world of sport, and I don't even know if he played golf, it's got to be Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
That would be mine. Sorry, Linny. We'll get around sometime.
Have you seen Keith Deller's golf bag, by the way? Unbelievable. He's got like a 1980s tour bag or some sort of, at the British Par 3 the last few years, turn up with this bag. I'm like, please, somebody just give him a bag. It's like an old leather style bag. It weighs about 8 stone.
And apparently it's got a strimmer, a rake, all sorts in it because he spends more time.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Derek, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. It's been fantastic speaking to you, finding out the stories and everything else about your career. You know, as I say, thank you for your time. We really do appreciate that.
And my pleasure, guys.
Yeah,
no problem. Thank you. Linny, thank you
much.
as always. Hurdy, thank you as always. Always a pleasure, you guys. We've got some great guests again coming on this week as well. So the next 2 days. Just again, you know, thank you to Simply Stream Videos who are helping us out for streaming this across to everybody. And SGH events, sports events, you can find out all the information on there. And don't forget the Sergio Garcia flag. We can't push this enough. If you go onto the SGH page, Facebook page, you'll be able to see that. It's all framed, it's signed. It's from the 2017 Masters as well. It's when he won it, the green jacket. Thanks for Muffy for that one. It's £10 to enter. And again, all the proceeds do go to the NHS. So thank you for that. If you can go on there, brilliant. We'll see you again tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And thanks to all our guests today. Thank you very much.
Cheers,
boys.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Alan McAnally tomorrow. That'll be fun.
Cheers. No problem, guys.
Cheers, Derek. Thank you very much.
Right. Top man,
My
well done, mate.
pleasure. See you soon, guys.
Eddie, have you gone?